Alrighty, well, hello everyone. Today we're going to be doing a short presentation on a few of Emory's different waste streams, where they go, the types of communities that they're in, and we're going to give you kind of a spatial overview that we put together of different environmental health variables in the areas immediately surrounding the facilities that these waste streams are sent to. So just a few introductions. My name is Aaron. I'm a senior at the college, double majoring in environmental science and economics. And I'm an intern with Office of Sustainability, general sustainability intern.
Cool. And I'm Megan Diley. I'm a senior in the college studying biological anthropology and human health. And I help run the Zero Waste Ambassador program for the Office of Sustainability Initiative.
All right, cool. So just to give you all an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. First, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background of this Follow the Waste project within OSI and how it got started. Then Megan's going to give a short overview of our new composting partner, Goodr, as well as environmental health and justice of waste issues. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the health indicators that we spatially examined in the areas surrounding the facilities that these waste streams are sent to. And these variables include hazardous waste proximity, particulate matter 2.5 concentration, which PM 2.5 is like particulate matter where the particles are less than 2.5 micrometers in length. Cancer risk, which is the average risk of developing cancer in residents per million in a certain geographic area. And then respiratory hazard index, which basically measures the risk for developing an acute or chronic respiratory illness due to breathing the air in a certain area. The specific waste streams that we're covering include landfill, which now goes to a Waste Pro USA Atlanta West facility, which is in Western Atlanta. Composting, which pretty soon, once Goodr starts servicing the compost and compost is separated out from landfill, compost will go to the Gainesville Waste and Recycle facility in Gainesville, Georgia. And then regulated solvent waste, which is like chemical waste left over from labs and stuff like that, is sent to US Ecology Incorporated in Sullivan, Alabama. And we're going to talk a little bit about your part at Emory, how you can like reduce your waste, and then take any questions from there. So a bit of a background of Follow the Waste at Emory. This project actually got started all the way back in summer 2020. OSI wanted to know what the ultimate destinations of Emory's waste streams were, including landfill, hazardous chemical waste, hazardous medical waste, and compost. So we worked with the Emory Health and Safety Office to basically pull together these final destinations for all of these waste streams. And then we used a tool that I'll talk about in a little more depth later on. It's called the EPA EJ screen mapping tool. And so we were able to get a sense of the demographics of the community surrounding the facilities and spatially examine environmental health variables in the areas immediately surrounding these facilities. And then this is just kind of an overview. It's kind of a complicated slide, but it's like sort of organizes who collects and services each waste stream, who hauls it, and where it's ultimately delivered. And so what we're focusing on today is organics, which is compost, which will soon be collected by Goodr and delivered to Gainesville Waste and Recycle in Gainesville, Georgia. Landfill, which is collected by Emory but hauled by Goodr to the Waste Pro landfill in Western Atlanta. Chemical waste, which is hauled by US Ecology to, as I mentioned, for solvent waste, Sullivan, Alabama, the US Ecology facility there, but pharmaceutical waste actually goes to a different location. That goes to Tampa, Florida. And non-hazardous chemical waste is delivered to the US Ecology facility here in Atlanta. Medical waste is delivered to a couple different destinations, including Lake City, Georgia, and Apopka. So, yeah, this is kind of a complicated slide, but if anyone would like, we'd be happy to send the slideshow later and we can examine this in more depth.
Cool. So as you may have heard, last year was a difficult year in terms of waste diversion. So from September of 2020 to August of 2021, compost on campus had to be sent to landfills due to a number of unforeseen circumstances like the pandemic and then also regional weather conditions. But even though this was obviously a very disheartening development, we have some very exciting news. So as of August 15th, Emory signed a contract with Goodr, who is now our new composting partner. So Goodr is a Black woman-owned and operated B corporation. And aside from diverting unnecessary waste from landfills, they're also focused on limiting food waste by bringing edible surplus food to community members experiencing food insecurity. It's also a certified B corporation, as mentioned, which is a business that meets the highest standards of verified social and environmental performance, public transparency, and also legal accountability. So for Emory, Atlanta, and Oxford campuses, Goodr has actually already started servicing organic materials from campus. So these organic materials are from the dining hall locations and also animal bedding from research labs. And these are able to be composted and diverted. So they have already started servicing certain number of compostables from campus. But post-consumer material will be composted once these streams are cleaner. So the green bins you see around campus are not yet being composted. We're just working on public outreach in order to make those waste streams cleaner, and then they will begin composting those as well. So Goodr will also manage contracts for the collection of Emory's other recycling and landfill streams. So it's just going to be all mainstream through them. So since they began servicing our campuses in September, Goodr has already helped Emory divert over 110,000 pounds of kitchen and animal bedding from the landfill. So that's exciting. It's already in action. And then over the coming months, Goodr will be transitioning to collecting the compost material from all of campus. So like I was saying, the green bins you see. So it's critical that we continue to put only food, napkins, to-go clamshells that you get from the dining halls, like the paper ones. And actually the green utensils from Emory dining locations, those are also compostable. So these need to go into the green compost bins on campus, and we also need to encourage our peers and colleagues to do the same. So in addition to following where our waste goes in this presentation, we will also discuss the environmental and social impacts of waste treatment facilities. These plants do not exist in a vacuum, and it's important to know of their impact on the environment and human health, especially for Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, which are disproportionately harmed from these treatment plants. So first, a few public health implications of waste treatment and landfill locations. The communities around these locations can be harmed by various forms of pollution, such as air pollution, whether it's gas or particulate matter, like the 2.5 we were talking about in this presentation, from incineration of like the burning of the waste. Water contamination, such as leachate, also is a harmful public health implication. And leachate is just the leaching of any pollutant into the soil or water around these locations. And then also there's odor, dust, and noise pollution as well that people note whenever they're asked, what do you experience? How does living near a landfill affect your quality of life? So studied health effects include a 12% increased risk of congenital malformations. This is from a study of 590 hazardous waste sites in New York State from 1983 to 84, which found the 12% increase of congenital malformations in people living within a 1 mile radius of a site. And then there's also a higher risk of various cancers and respiratory illness like asthma. So waste disproportionately affects Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. This is expressed by the term environmental racism, in which race is the single most important factor that is more than income, more than home ownership rate, and more than property values in the location of abandoned toxic waste sites. So this is due to housing policies and exclusionary zoning and redlining, which have concentrated Black and brown populations into communities with restricted access to resources, and with these communities historically targeted for dumping waste and for siting landfills and trash incinerators. So this is another big point of the conversation we're having today. And I like this graphic as well. It has good stats. So it's clear that waste management is obviously an environmental justice issue. So the bottom line is there's no way when you throw away. And that's why it's so important to be following our waste streams today, whether on Emory campus, because that's where we live and work most prominently, but also if you can find this in your own hometowns and stuff, it's just very important. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not change.
All right, so now we're going to get into kind of the mapping section of the presentation. So like I said earlier, we examined each of these waste streams: landfill, compost, hazardous chemical waste, and hazardous medical waste. We mapped the destination location for each waste stream, and then mapped the area surrounding the facility using the EJ-Screen mapping tool, which is an EPA-based mapping tool that basically you'll see like in examples like when we change the slide here, but basically it maps different either demographic variables or environmental health variables surrounding a particular location. And so it's based on a percentile. So it's basically, the map is like color coded, and say for example, if it's like PM 2.5 concentration, if an area was in the 90th percentile for PM 2.5 concentration countrywide, that would mean that 90% of the location of the geographic locations measured by the EJ-Screen mapping tool would have less of a PM 2.5 concentration than that area. So it measures on the basis of a percentile relative to the rest of the country. And so to examine the demographics and environmental health variables in these areas, we researched kind of a snapshot of the different demographic variables in the surrounding areas of each facility. And then we mapped 4 environmental health variables for each facility: hazardous waste proximity, PM 2.5 concentration, cancer risk, and respiratory hazard index surrounding those facilities, to kind of examine what both the demographics and some of the major environmental health issues, if any, are around each facility.
Sorry.
So to get into landfill waste, which is the first stream we examined. So Emory's landfill waste is collected by Goodr and is now hauled to the Waste Pro USA facility in Western Atlanta. This facility is relatively recently established. It opened in 2019. It was a branch of a larger facility in Gwinnett County. And then this facility serves, it's fairly small. It only serves around 7,000 residential customers and 2,300 commercial customers. But it's right here in Western Atlanta. And then,
Oh, sorry.
This is kind of the demographic picture of the immediate area surrounding this facility. So 62% of residents identify as low income. Just under 10% have received less than a high school education, and 98% are people of color. And so then we mapped a few of these environmental health variables surrounding the facility. The first of which you can see here, hazardous waste proximity. So the facility here is marked by the blue dot, and basically the key here on the right shows the percentile for different geographic areas in the areas surrounding the facility. It shows the different percentile of hazardous waste proximity relative to the rest of the country. So this immediate area surrounding the facility is estimated as about the 55th percentile in the United States for hazardous waste proximity. And then this area kind of like to the left is higher up in the percentile range. And one thing that's notable here is that this is not the only waste disposal facility in this area. There's actually a bunch here on this road, Fulton Industrial Boulevard. Interestingly, Emory's unregulated chemical waste goes to a facility that's like just down the road from this location. So there's lots of waste treatment facilities in this location. Here's the PM 2.5 concentration, which again, PM 2.5 is particulate matter of 2.5 micrometers or less. And this maps the concentration of PM 2.5 in the area surrounding the facility on the basis of a percentile compared to the rest of the country. And as you can see, the area immediately surrounding the facility is between the 80th and 90th percentile countrywide for PM 2.5 concentration. And EJ Screen estimates the specific percentile to be around the 89th. So fairly high PM 2.5 concentration compared to the rest of the country. Cancer risk for residents in the area, again, very high here compared to the rest of the country, between the 95th and 99th percentiles, with 95th being the EJ Screen specific estimate in the area immediately surrounding the facility. And respiratory hazard index, again, also very high in this area, where the respiratory hazard index, which again is risk of developing an acute or chronic respiratory illness due to breathing the air around you, in the area immediately surrounding this facility, is between the country's 90th and 95th percentiles, with 91st being the EJ Screen. So that was our landfill waste estimation. As of right now, as I'm sure everyone knows, landfill and compost are going to the same location, but the good news is Goodr is in the process of servicing our compost to an actual composting facility, which is great. And it's actually called Gainesville Waste and Recycle, but they have a very kind of a multifaceted, very large composting facility. This facility is also notably the only fully permitted landfill recycling and composting facility in Georgia. The facility receives around 200 to 300 tons of local waste per day, about 1,200 tons of imported waste per day. And also of note, this is just one of the compost locations where Goodr is servicing our compost. I'd say this is the main location we found, but there's a few other locations as well, including the 400 North landfill, which also has a composting facility, and then the Truly Living Well Urban Agricultural Center in Atlanta, and Wonder Grove Sustainable Food also. The overall demographic picture of the area immediately surrounding this facility in Gainesville is 60% of residents are low income, 45%, which is fairly high, have received less than a high school education, and 68% are people of color. Then to get into the environmental health variables, this shows the hazardous waste proximity, again, on a percentile scale compared to the rest of the country. You can see the area immediately surrounding the facility. It's actually fairly low in terms of its hazardous waste proximity compared to the rest of the country, well below the 50th percentile, the 31st estimated by EJ Screen. PM 2.5 concentration in the surrounding area is kind of mid-range compared to the rest of the country, between the 50th and 60th percentiles, with 58 being the specific estimate by EJ Screen. Cancer risk for residents in the area immediately surrounding the facility is fairly high. It's between the 70th and 80th percentiles in the immediate area surrounding the facility, with 75th being the specific estimate. And respiratory hazard index also fairly high in the area surrounding the facility, around the 63rd percentile. Now to get into the last waste stream that we kind of mapped more in depth here, and that is regulated chemical waste, which in this case, we focused on solvent waste, since that's kind of something that a lot of students, faculty, and staff all have dealt with, because this basically this is composed of all like leftover chemicals from all of Emory's labs. And so it includes, all hazardous waste chemicals from experiments and research and teaching labs. It also includes potentially hazardous use chemicals that are used for cleaning. And our solvent waste is collected by an environmental compliance program, which is partnered with the Emory Health and Safety Office. It's hauled by US Ecology to a US Ecology facility in Sullivan, Alabama. And this facility was established in 2011. It's quite large, serves most of the Gulf Coast region. And nearly all the chemical waste at this facility is incinerated.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you know if that includes you know that we have like regular solid waste and then halogenated solid waste as two separate bins. Is that you know?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure, but luckily we have a question slide in to ask people. So, wait, you said with halogen solid waste?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking into that. Sounds good. Okay, so let's get to the demographic variables for the area surrounding this facility. Just under half of residents surrounding the facility identifies low income. 18% receive less than a high school education, and 31% of people. And hazardous waste proximity of the area surrounding the facility is pretty far below the country's 50th percentile, with 29th being the specific estimate by EJ School. PM 2.5 concentration of this area is a little bit higher, but kind of mid-range compared to the rest of the country, around the 55th percentile. Cancer risk is notably higher than these previous variables. It is between the 80th and 90th percentile in this area, with 85th in the EJ School estimate. Respiratory hazard index also very high in this area, estimated to be around the 88th countrywide percentile. So we also examined and mapped out locations for other Emory waste streams, including regulated medical waste. We didn't include them in this presentation for time's sake. We just focused on landfill, compost, and solid waste. But we do have these mapped out. And so if anyone would like to see the maps of the environmental health variables for the following locations, just reach out to myself or Megan, and we will send you the slides that we put together for these locations as well. But just to give you all a quick summary, regulated medical waste goes to Lake City, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. It's run by Stericycle, Stericycle Regulated Medical Waste Facility. And this basically serves all like hazardous medical waste from the Emory University clinics and hospitals. Unregulated chemical waste, as I mentioned before, goes to a location that's just down the road from the location where our landfill waste is sent. It's a U.S. ecology plant in Western Atlanta. And unregulated chemical waste just means like chemicals that aren't quite as hazardous as regulated chemicals. So these include like silica gel, latex paint, certain lab chemicals. So I'm assuming for halogen waste, as Caroline was asking about earlier, if it doesn't get sent to Solgen, then it gets sent to this location. So we'll look at that. But yeah, this is just West Atlanta. Then pharmaceutical waste, which includes leftover basically prescription medications, is collected by the Emory Health and Safety Office and is hauled by U.S. Ecology to another U.S. Ecology disposal facility in Tampa, Florida. And nearly all the chemical waste is incinerated in this location as well. And again, we have the environmental health indicators for these locations on that end as well. So if you would like access to those, just reach out.
Okay, perfect. 1 second. Beautiful. Okay, so now this is the discussion part of the presentation. So we're going to talk about the environmental justice of waste. So how does following your waste, like we did in this presentation, relate to environmental justice? Yeah.
It's really interesting because, like, I think the aspect of environmental justice is just like the consciousness of the social aspect of like everything that we do. And I think there's room for just like environmental justice efforts in all environmental thought. So kind of diving deeper into the logistics and the specific ways that people are affected by waste can like illuminate maybe discrepancies based on race, class, and other variables. So I think it's really interesting to kind of like create a space to take the time to examine it, which is really interesting.
Thank you. That was beautifully said. No, I agree. I think it just comes down to an awareness of how does this disproportionately affect different populations, what historical, what social implications led up to that, and how can we address it ethically and justly. So I agree. How does this knowledge affect waste production and diversion, whether through the Emory community or personally. You don't have
People
to.
online.
There are people online, but there's any chat.
Yes, but
That's okay.
there won't be.
I really don't mind. I will just sit here and have this conversation with you. about
Caroline,
it.
you can also talk. Erin, you too. Anyone, no pressure though.
Knowing that like the waste we create has significant impact on the environment, should inspire us to create less waste in the first place. And also to be conscious about making sure that we're sorting waste properly and putting it in the right place so that, we don't unwittingly create more pollution and reduce streams.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think what it comes down to just being aware of, it comes back to like what the bottom line is of there's no way when you throw away. So it's so easy to just, I'm just going to use this single-use plastic, throw it away, out of my hands, right? But it's so important to see, no, it actually affects other people and it goes way beyond just your single use of it. So I agree. I think it just comes down again to awareness and reducing your waste in general, which we will talk about. But for the last question, what can you do to address environmental justice or injustice?
Not the question.
I know, yeah.
The question they are, make it your career.
Okay, well, we can actually, so it's less intimidating. Hello. Hi, are you here for the Follow the Waste presentation?
Yeah, I'm on the trash con.
Perfect. Great. We're talking about the discussion questions of environmental justice. You're actually here for the last part of it, so that's great. It's the next part we're going to talk about is how can you address environmental justice, and we'll talk about the specific action steps that you can do, and it ultimately comes down to just reducing your waste, and then also just letting people know of following your waste and things like that. And this is also being recorded, so if y'all just want to give me your emails at the end of it, we can share it with you as well.
Intended to answer your question is
Yes.
the last follow-up, like what y'all are doing and talking about it, creating this space is also so important. So thanks to y'all.
Thank you. Okay, so then how can you reduce your waste? So you can reduce your impact from your waste, whether it's production, consumption, through the Zero Waste Ambassador Program, of which I'm actually the intern through the Office of Sustainability. I help coordinate it. So Zero Waste Ambassador Program, it's a group of motivated Emory faculty, students, and staff who lead peer-to-peer outreach in their offices, lab, residence halls, and other Emory groups. So this outreach is vital in communicating proper reduction and disposal methods across campus, sharing reuse and reduction strategies, and also sharing feedback about the waste system to administrators. So if you see people are really confused of how do I recycle a coffee cup? How do I recycle the plasticware from Cox Hall? Things like that. If you just see that's a really prevalent theme, feel free to reach out to us. We can address it through our messaging and then also help you in your own messaging and educating of your peers and things like that. Also, November is Waste Awareness Month. So if you follow OSI on Instagram or Facebook, you can get tips on waste reduction and also see community members' efforts to reduce their waste as well. And then also we held this talk. So thank you for coming. You are participating in Waste Awareness Month. So how do we sort our waste at Emory? So for indoor disposal, Emory has 5 standardized bins, which are the ones on the top there. So the first is compost, so organic waste, such as food, paper towels, tissues, also the Cox Hall utensils, those are biodegradable as well, and non-plastic food containers go here. So Emory's been really proactive, especially during the this year with like first years using the DCT dining hall, all that is compostable as well. The next we have is plastics and metals, which is your more dark blue container. So different types of plastics and metals ranging from wrappers, so granola bar wrappers, bag wrappers, things like that, to bottles, cans, chip bags, and aluminum can go here. So it's kind of the catch-all. If you don't really know where it goes, you default to this one. So next we have mixed paper, which is for cardboard, newspapers, and magazines. Our white paper stream includes lined paper, printing paper, and any other type of paper, regardless of how much ink is on it. So as long as it's just white, in general. No matter the ink, it goes in that one. And then lastly, we have landfill. So only food, residual, styrofoam, and PPE go here. Styrofoam isn't given out on campus in order to help reduce the need for the landfill option. So that's why you don't really see them around campus that much. So the compost and dark blue metal or plastic bins are the ones you most commonly see around campus. So you see those literally everywhere, whether it's inside or outside. And when you hesitate on where to sort something, the blue plastic and metals is the default. And that's just really important to help spread, as well as we're transitioning to Goodr, eventually composting all of our post-consumer all around campus. Haven't started yet as we start just helping with the messaging of having cleaner streams. So the less plastic and the less things that aren't supposed to go in compost, the better. And then it'll help with the collection. There's also designated hard to recycle points around campus where you can bring the hard to recycle items on the bottom of the screen. So this includes glass, batteries, ink and toner cartridges, also light bulbs, styrofoam, and aerosol cans. So a convenient location is Cox Computing Center, in which you're actually in right now. And the chemistry building also has one. And all electronic waste is handled by Emory's Office of Information Technology. So if you have a question on where that goes as well, you can always shoot them an email. Okay, and lastly, green offices and green labs are voluntary certification programs that help employees improve the sustainability of Emory's workspaces in areas such as waste production, energy use, and event planning. So all certified green offices and green labs are eligible for an annual small grants program. Examples of small grants in the past include installation of water filling stations, reusable Petri dishes, motion censored lighting, and more. So you can get involved by filling out the green offices at Emory or green labs at Emory checklist on the OSI website, if you're interested in that for your office or lab space. So that concludes the conversation we had today. I'm sorry I missed out on the beginning part. We will definitely send you the slides and or the recorded presentation.